now we are having a very small question and answer session. The students may have some questions to ask our respectable N. Ram sir. If you have questions, you are free to ask. If you have a question, we will pass on the mic to you. You can ask your questions to him. Not only students, even our faculties are there in the crowd. They are also invited to ask questions.
So my name is Jiva. So as you spoke about critical thinking, my question to you is, like in today's era of fast news and social media and AI, how can young aspirants like us, train themselves to develop the critical thinking rather than reacting emotionally to a particular news or something like that?
Yeah, I think today we have a real problem with social media. There is so much misinformation and disinformation. By the way, I want you to make a distinction between misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is wrong information, but it is not necessarily deliberate. It's not motivated. We all make mistakes, including the Hindu, and you have to have a mechanism to correct it. Corrections and clarifications is important all the time. Many of us don't do it because we don't like to admit you're wrong, but there is no motive behind it. But scholars make this distinction also. There's some research on disinformation. Disinformation is deliberate and motivated, and that's where you hear about deep fakes enabled by AI. Very hard to detect. The detection tools for detection are still under development, early days. It's not easy to detect really well done deep fakes. And disinformation is motivated. Political parties do it, movements do it. The anti-vax movement, for example, WHO uses the term infodemic along with the epidemic or pandemic. Infodemic is it spreads wide, and this is scaled up and weaponized and scaled up on social media platforms. And the tech companies which run these platforms very often, more often than not, do not accept accountability, responsibility for this. So you have a real issue, particularly for young people. Every day I face this. If you have a physiotherapist who comes, you're working, every day they tell you what's an alternative reality, alternative world of people, what people are getting on social media, whether it is Facebook, Instagram. India has the largest number of Facebook users in the world. India has the largest number of WhatsApp users in the world. These are supposed to be closed circles. Not X or formerly Twitter. We don't have a huge number. By the way, critical thinking, it's clear that X has only fewer than 30 million users in India. That's on the high side. It's about, you see varying figures, 23 to 27 and all that. How come a political leader or even a sportsman has a following of 100 million? You mean they get it abroad? Impossible. For a prime minister or anyone, or say a Virat Kohli, 100 million plus. So you've got to look at these figures. But anyway, the point is that there's so much disinformation out there and misinformation that that it becomes all the more important, more than ever, to have a critical mind, to do fact checking. There are fact checking websites. There's something called Alt News. I don't know how many of you have seen it. They do a wonderful job. I think it started by somebody at Height, a techie started it, and he's got a small team, but they do a wonderful job. They pick out what only significant examples, significant instances of disinformation or misinformation. They investigate and put it out. Some media organizations have their in-house fact-checking teams. In fact, there's an international network of fact-checking organizations certified by the global the network, international network. It's based in Poynter Institute in the US, in Florida. I've been there. So I think that's one way of checking it, but you can also develop your own skills, and I think there are handbooks in the Asian College of Journalism, with which I have been associated from the start. I'm one of the founder trustees, not-for-profit postgraduate institution in Chennai, in Taramani. We have brought out a publication on how to exercise caution, skepticism when you read something, and so on. So it is possible, but it's hard work, because the scale of this the way it spreads is so vast, so monstrous, in fact, and it's global. Even if you try to block it using a VPN, I can read what is put out in Pakistan. It's blocked after Operation Sindoor. It's been blocked. You can't read even posts put out on X from Pakistan. But if I use a VPN, of course I can on that. So it's hard work, but I think you can do it. Was that your question?
Yes, sir. Pretty much. How young aspirants like us can train ourselves to, gain the critical knowledge part?
Yeah, it's easy for me to say it, but it's still, now how do you distinguish between deep fake and a genuine image? Sometimes I use common sense. That's one thing. It's not enough, but in many cases, is this believable? If something is completely over the top or not believable, then I think you have to exercise greater scrutiny of whether this could possibly be true. And because there's so much out there, and I think the tech companies, the giants, must be held to account for this. But when another issue is regulation, internet regulation, or what's sometimes called censorship. It's a problem in India. We had some rules under the IT Act. It's a constant. Now they're trying to replace it with a comprehensive law, which has been stalled, and so on. So these are issues. It's easy to give the principles that should be applied, but you got to figure out your own. And above all, I think your educated common sense is what I think can help you. But you'll still fall. You'll be fooled. You'll still fall victim someday or the other to this, because it's so vast and so high tech. But at this stage, I think a lot of the fake videos are shallow fakes, not deep fakes. Even shallow fakes are good enough to fool people, except a certain section. So I think, coachings, I don't know if it will fall directly under the remit of this institution, but they will, you develop critical thinking. And when you are in policy making or in administration somewhere, you got to, these become very important.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Priyadarshini from Kanai village of Philippuram. I'm really proud when you mentioned about that how inspiring people are coming out from rural. Thanks for your inspiration, sir. And special thanks for your insightful views. My question is, will you please enlighten us with a particular moment of your experience in your life that fundamentally changed your perspective or the path you choose, sir? Thanks in advance. Yeah,
that moment I can easily answer was in 1968. I was 67, 68. I was an MS student at the Graduate School of Journalism at Columbia University, New York. I was one of the early ones who went to study journalism. I went in 67 and I belonged to the class of 68. So the campus was occupied by students. The issues were the protest against the Vietnam War at that time. Some of you may not have been born then, right? Many of you, except the faculty. So it was a big it was a big movement, then Black Power and so on. So my campus was occupied. And the iconic photograph was one of the students took over the president of the university is a big, big deal, you can say. So this man is sitting in the swiveling chair of the president with a cigar in his mouth. It became an iconic picture of that time. But they were fighting for justice. Maybe they overdid some things, occupying, or some damage was done maybe. But the cause was just, and I was deeply influenced by that. And when I came back to India, I was, to put it mildly, I became progressive. I moved to the left, if you like. And I stayed there. Yesterday, you would have read in the papers the passing of R. Nallakannu, who belonged to the Communist Party of India. I knew for about 50 years. From school he ran away from home because he wanted to participate in the freedom struggle, and then joined the communist movement, and how simply he lived. When he got a big award from the cash award from the state, he gave it to the chief minister's relief fund and contributed 5,000 rupees from his own pocket. You don't find too many people like that today. Whatever you're thinking, your ideology, etc., this has, I think, touched a deep chord among the people, thanks to the news spreading everywhere. So today I went to pay my respects, and it's very, very moving there, the kind of people who had come, and so on. So that kind of dedication, whether it's Mahatma Gandhi ji or there are people like that who have thrown up everything, come and say, you start a school in a rural area to provide modern education. You provide scholarships, or you start an institution like the Shankar Netralaya, which I think has become world class, but the costs are very, very low, very reasonable, unlike corporate hospitals. So I think these things inspire people, and I was quite inspired, I would say, in direct answer to your question, by what happened. So that moment you asked me it happened sometime in 1968. And two of my faculty, my professors, joined the students. They resigned and went elsewhere. One of them was my great friend called Professor Larry Pinkham, Lawrence Pinkham. And I have a parrot which is named after him, in tribute.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Sharanya. Thank you for your talk, firstly. And my question is in reference to the tariff war that you spoke about, as well as US's role currently in withdrawing out of multiple international institutions. One, do you see the world order changing from a liberal to a more realist world order? And two, a realist world order as opposed to a liberal one, where the role of international institutions is quite high. And second, do you see the value? Why
do you call it realist?
International relations theory. I mean, Mia Scheimer talks about offensive realism and the realism as a school of thought. That's why I use the word realist. But so do you see,
as in realpolitik?
I'm not too sure about that. I haven't read up much on the realpolitik, but the realist school of thought basically talks about how every country favors only their own needs as opposed to a global world order that's dependent on cooperation. Okay. So do you see us moving more to that kind of a situation?
I think we are already in that kind of situation. Certainly the Indian government is like, go to Israel and say we are fully with you.
Yeah.
And of course Hamas, they say terrorists and all that, but what about because you and reporters and others have found genocidal violence committed by Israel in Gaza. He didn't speak about that. Of course I'm being critical on this, but it's very hard to defend given India's historical position on the Palestine question, on the West Asian questions. But he's taken what we call realpolitik view. He wants to, I think the leader, it was not just Mr. Modi, it started a little earlier with the Congress government also, but a realpolitik world that my national interests will be served only if I do this, and that's, I followed that many times.
Okay, So do you see the world order shifting to one where countries prioritize their self-interest?
I think it will swing back also, because take the US for example. Trump, this is his last term, although he's thrown hints that I could continue and all that. I don't believe. It's just bluff. But by all accounts, he's going to face real trouble in the midterm elections for Congress. And if the Democrats win, somebody has said the Trump presidency's second term was over. That's an exaggeration. He can still do things, but because he will defy the law. I mean, how does the Supreme Court enforce its decisions? Tell me. What does it have? An army? Does it have a police force? It's only a moral authority or a constitutional role. But if some elected person like Trump says, I wield executive power, I don't care what the Constitution says, what is your remedy? And it's, I think, moving in that direction, but I don't think he can really reach, you do it.
So
he will be impeached. And even people from his party may join that if it goes beyond a tolerance limit. So I see some setbacks for Trump, and it'll come back to a more, in some states, a more liberal political orientation.
So it'll oscillate between international.
Yeah, I think it'll change. Yeah, and after all, they already call this a lame duck term, although plenty has happened. This is his last term, so he's 3 more years. And so on. So I think there will be change. Yes, it is true that many countries have moved. Some extreme right parties have come to power or threatening to come to power, including in the UK, where the present Prime Minister, by all accounts, is very unpopular after a big win. And Farage, the Reform Party, I think, is if elections were held today, they will have a majority. But that may change, depending on the international situation, how he handles things, domestic issues, if the economy suddenly improves, or if he's able to reform the NHS, the National Health Service, which is a big deal in a country like the US, because there are so long queues. For simple problems, people can't get appointments with physicians. It's much easier in India, even in government hospitals. And then there's the private sector, where often people get fleeced, but still they can go. So I think these things have a habit of changing, and surprises in store. Who would have thought that the BJP would not get a single party majority the 2024 election? Some journalists wrote about it just before, say, some 6 months before the election. Honest journalists, I know them. They traveled to Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, some other places, and said that there's no way this party, it could be BJP, it could be Congress, it doesn't matter. But who would have thought that the ruling party, which looked so powerful with such a strong leader, would fall short of a majority and have to depend on 2 main parties, one in Bihar and also Andhra Pradesh, the TDP, to survive. Of course, there's another way of doing it. You can buy people, get defections, even in a legal way, and get away with it. But and they've been able to recover some lost ground also after that in assembly elections. So I think things change in politics and public and international relations. There are periods of stagnation, stability, and then suddenly you'll find that Trump, I mean, if that bullet hadn't missed him by a couple of inches, or whatever it was exact, then you can imagine what happened. I don't think the opposition would have benefited. Somebody like Trump, like Vance or somebody, would have probably come in. There'd be a lot of sympathy, which is why assassinations don't produce. Going back to your assumption, if they think that by knocking a particular leader out, you will move towards your goal, say politically, usually the opposite happens. There will be sympathy. In India we saw after the assassination of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi by her bodyguards, the assassination of Rajiv Gandhi, who was on the way to be Prime Minister, become Prime Minister again. It builds sympathy. So individual terrorism is not the way. This, I think, the revolutionaries of the past realized it. So I mean, my experience teaches me that nothing is certain in politics. You can follow trends, you can follow public opinion polls. Very often they are wrong. Even exit polls are wrong because so pollsters invented various excuses in the form of theories like the lying factor. The people don't tell the truth when they are polled. If you use, and also the methodology, if you use the telephone as the instrument, I call people on the mobile phone because it doesn't cost much. Then I think there are certain distortions come in. So in politics, I think you have to be prepared for shocks, surprises, and also very pleasant shocks or surprises.
Hi, sir. Sir,
Yeah.
the name is Kirti. Sir, my question is more about skill development. I'm sure in our platforms, the art of articulation is the crucial skill. The both of our platforms, I would say. For us, the precise writing would give us edge towards many ranks in our mains exam. We discussed with the faculties about, they always say the art of articulation is very important. And one thing that I've admired so much is, sir, your art of articulation. It is. What would be your advice to us about that? And the second
I
question.
think, yeah, I've thought about it. I think those who write in a simple, plain, direct way, I think that is often the best. You are also free to write in a flowery way, full of surprises and so on. Take I mean, I can think of writers like Salman Rushdie, who's got terrific wordplay and so on. A wonderful writer, no doubt, most of his writings. But take a writer like R.K. Narayan. I don't know if any of you read him. He was much admired for his, it's sometimes called the clear glass style. Vikram Seth is an example. Arundhati Roy is a bit different. But for most people, those going for the civil services or other professional jobs, I would recommend a plain and direct style if you're writing. Clear, be clear on what you mean, not use fuzzy language and not use very long sentences. I've committed all these sins as a journalist. Sometimes you want to impress and you know, flowery words and overwrite, what we call overwriting. But don't go for AI, because AI will edit your stuff and without your intervention it's do that. Some people use it for editing. For routine tasks it's all right. If I had to write a letter, something, a lot of people use that. But if for serious writing, connected with your job, it is important for your job, what you said, articulation, write it yourself. I use, if you are not sure of some word, the exact connotation, there's this wonderful thing called the Oxford Online Dictionary, which I have here. Give me a word and I'll tell you what it means, the nuance. Yeah, try. Give me a word, some demanding word.
Flabbergasted.
Huh?
Flabbergasted.
Okay. To be flabbergasted is to be greatly surprised or astonished. This news has left me totally flabbergasted. Flabbergasted fans took to the streets to celebrate the team's big win. And the advantages also pronunciation.
Flabbergasted.
Can you hear me?
Got it, sir.
Flabbergasted.
So something like that is a very good tool, I'd say, for your writing. Whether they'll let you use it in an exam, I don't know. But sometimes they have, no? You can refer to anything and write. But these are the aids that really help. Earlier I couldn't carry my dictionary everywhere. But now I just have to look at this. If I have any doubt, not so much. I would know the meaning of many of the words. Not every word, but many of them. I think my English has been developed to that extent. Oh, some of you are like that also. But there are nuances, particular contexts in which words are used. And then I see whether it's right or wrong. This is the word to use. I think that's, your English is good, so you can go to that level. But for somebody who doesn't have the basics, they may also aspire. But still this sort of thing is extremely useful. The dictionary, whether in print or online, but I would recommend, I don't know if you use American spellings or Indian in your work, but I go for the UK because we were brought up at that time. So I think those are the aids that I really help, and this is technology because it's available at my fingertips. And these resources are available. You've got to subscribe to it.
Thank you.
So
sir.
anyway, good.
Thank you, sir.
I
Thank you
thought
so much.
some of you were shy, but now it's coming out. Good. How many of you come from rural backgrounds? Yes, of course. You do? Yes, of course. I heard from your managing director that, and I read about it also. That's very good.
Thank you so much, sir. We are grateful for the enlightenment today. Now we invite our respectable Mr. N. Ram, sir, to present the Hindu yearbook to our top performers. We ask the students to be ready so that you can get it.
Okay. Students autograph. This is the proudest moment for Shankar IAS Academy. We don't get autograph from actors or anyone. We get autograph from our N. Ram sir. We feel the pride. Thank you. So after this, we will invite our academic head, Bhaskar sir, for vote of thanks.